Let me do a little bit of an intro first.
Okay.
So Tom and I are actually old friends, kind of friends, right? Sort of. We actually worked together at a company called Bluestone back in like 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002. And then we reconnected probably 8 years ago or something like that at a company called Metaverse. So Tom's actually the CEO of Metaverse, which is a online e-commerce vendor that he'll talk about. And one of the things I'm most happy about is that Tom's starting to spend time with us. And so it's this kind of outside influence that's coming in. Because I feel like inside of the race industry, we sometimes we're too closed and we don't think about outside influences and stuff. And so Tom is bringing kind of a fresh, different perspective on the lessons he's learned in e-commerce. So we asked him today to kind of compare and contrast and look for opportunities and things like that. So Tom?
Thanks, Bob. Good morning, everybody. So today's session's on lessons from e-commerce. And as I was putting together the material and the content, really I was thinking essentially everybody in this room is in e-commerce. And you may not think of it that way, but just quickly defining e-commerce, it's essentially electronic commerce or internet commerce. So the buying and the selling of goods over the internet, transferring money, transferring data. So effectively what you guys are doing on RunSignup is e-commerce. So these lessons are really for all of us in this room. So as Bob mentioned, I've been in the e-commerce space for a little over 10 years. The company that I run is an online art company. So we sell pictures and canvas and posters and prints to retail customers, to wholesale customers. We sell, 4 of our big brands are up here. We also sell through Macy's and Kohl's and Amazon and JCPenney's and Overstock and Wayfair. So really familiar with marketplaces and just, how things happen online. And I think the thing that's interesting, I've been in business for over 20 years. And for over 20 years in small startup businesses, Bluestone was probably a little bit of a larger startup than what I'm used to. And so I'm very comfortable in smaller environments. And I think that as I look around this room, how many people have organizations more than 5 people? Okay, so about half. How many of you are under 5 people? Okay, about half. And how about over 15 people? Okay, yeah, so that's what I thought. Most of you are small organizations, anywhere from 10 and under. A couple of you are 15 and under. So you need to do a lot of things. You need to wear a lot of hats. And I'm very familiar with that as well. I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, I'm the COO. I work in the operation during Christmas time. I package products during Christmas time. I get it, right? I understand how challenging it is to do lots of different things. And so what RunSignup is doing really is to try and help you pull all those different challenges together and make it easier for you to act like you're a really big company and still only have 5 people doing it, right? And so I understand that, and I think that's really exciting about what RunSignup's doing. Today I'm going to go over just a handful of things, all things pulled either from the industry reports or from RunSignup, and then merging it with some of the things that I've seen in my experiences. So, we'll talk about demographics, we'll talk about average what I'm calling order value, or for you, for race value, your traffic, where it comes from and how that impacts you, traffic by device, paid traffic, and email marketing, and then just maybe some key takeaways. My hope for you today is that you can get 1 or 2 things that you can take back to your organization and implement. When I go to these type of events, I'm usually trying to get just 1 or 2 things out of the whole 2 or 3 days. So hopefully I can get you something that'll be beneficial. As Bob shared this morning, really RunSignup is this big platform that pulls everything together. Where I spend most of my time is sort of in this CRM and promotion side and reporting side. So I'm going to spend a lot of time sort of delving into that and hopefully giving you some more ideas around that. I started out just looking at demographics, and a lot of this I pulled from the RunSignup industry report that Johanna and Allison were bringing out today. So I'll try to source where it came from so that you can kind of jump into that and dig into it a little bit deeper. But in general, on the RunSignup platform, the participants that are signing up for your events and doing your fundraising and donations are skewed heavier to female, 56% to about 43%. That gap's closed about 5% over the last 5 years. It was even more heavier weighted female to male, and it's been closing somewhat. That's very similar to what I see on the e-commerce side. I'm actually, for our Framed Art brand, I'm around 60-40, and for my Fulcrum Gallery brand, I'm about 65-35. I'm very heavy selling to the female market. And what we find in our space is that home decorating, interior designing, those purchasing decisions tend to get made by females. When I was digging into this and sort of just thinking about, how it affects us, obviously our sites are geared towards, what's selling. So, we've got lots of different categories and lots of different art. How does that relate for RunSignup and for what you guys are doing? And I think the biggest takeaway is, on the RunSignup platform, we're seeing somewhere in the sub 10% of races that are setting up female sizing options for your giveaways versus unisex. So just be mindful. If you've got 55% of your users that are coming and signing up, and you're giving them a sort of one size fits all approach, there's something that you potentially could do a little bit better there. It's not hard to do. You can set it up in the platform, and so that's something that I would recommend at least thinking about. And if you're not sure if you want to add that complexity, because in my past life I actually did promotional products, and so I get that as well. And there's more complication in sizing and having to buy more things and manage more things. At least think about it and maybe ask your participants, is this something that you'd be interested in, so that maybe in your next year you can add that. The next thing I looked at was the age demographics of what you're seeing on the platform. I think in the industry report there was 6 different breakdowns in age. I sort of summarized this into 3 groupings. I went with a sort of a younger demographic, sort of a middle-aged demographic, and an older demographic. It skews younger. 40% of your users are in that middle tier. About a third are in the youngest bucket, and then about a quarter are in 50 and older. And so that's going to have a big impact on your devices. And when I go into devices in a little bit, you're going to see how that impacts you. For my market, I actually see skews very old. 65 and 67% of my users are, and I bucketed this 45 and older, and then I went with a 35 to 45 and under 35. So my youth group, or my youngest group, is actually even older than what I did for RunSignup, and you can see that I've only got about 18%, under 20% in that young demographic. That's going to have an impact on my mobile traffic and my traffic sources coming up when I go over that. So be mindful of sort of where your demographics are, because it's going to impact where your traffic comes from, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Average order value. When I say average order value, think average race value. So $30 for your 5K, $38 for your 10K. That's what I would consider your average order value. So when somebody's coming to your site and they're signing up for your event, whatever your average ticket price is, that's what I consider your AOV. Average race prices, again, this is coming from the industry report on page 22. Your average race prices in the 5 and 10K, you're in that sort of $30 to $35 range. Your half marathons and marathons in that sort of $60 to $90 range. And then for your triathlons and ultras, you're sort of $90 and up. That's really challenging for you to market with an AOV like that. The challenge with a low AOV like that is that you've got to bring customers in at a really low price point for when you're acquiring a customer. I'll bring this in as we talk about traffic sources and some of the things that you can do about that. I have AOVs that are a little bit better than that, obviously. I'm selling a product. My AOVs have sort of grown over the last 5 years, but generally speaking, on my Fulcrum site, I'm about $100. It's heavier weighted towards selling print products. My Framed Art sites, I'm right around $200 at this point, and that's selling 60% of the product is selling finished product. So higher AOV, I can spend a little bit more money in acquisition, and you're going to see that as I go through the traffic sources. In terms of your cost per acquisition, so if you give somebody a $5 coupon as an incentive, or let's say you give them a discount. So I sign up 3 months ahead of your race, and you give me $10 off. The cost for you to acquire me by coming early is that $10, right? And so the question is, how many people are going to come to your website? Brian was talking about some of the quick hits earlier, and you said people come to your site and then they leave because they got to find out if their son has a basketball game or a soccer game or something else going on. So you got them to your site. You paid something for that, right? You either worked for or organic traffic, which everybody says, oh, organic traffic is free. Organic traffic is not free. You spend a lot of time and effort creating content so that Google and Bing and so forth will bring people to your site. There's a cost of that. It's usually borne on you, right? Like you internally. You can pay Google, you can pay Bing, you can pay Facebook. So I pay anywhere from $1.50 to $2.50 per click when somebody clicks on an ad for framed art, for example. And it can be as much as $4. It's a really competitive space. So people will come into an ad, and it takes me 100 people to get one person to buy. So, if I'm paying $2, take that $2 times those 100 people. The math there will give you your cost per acquisition. So for me, $200 to get one person to buy. So for you, take a look at your traffic. You're bringing in, and I've got some stats on traffic, so we'll go over this a little bit later, but you're bringing in thousands of people to your site, and only a portion of them are going to sign up. So the cost for you to bring all that traffic in is your cost to acquire those customers, the number of acquisitions. So if I spend $10,000 and I get 1,000 acquisitions, $10 is your cost per acquisition. So for me, I'm typically looking to turn about a $250 ROI on my ad spend. Because I've got a cost of materials, and I run an operation, and I got to ship products and things like that.
And that's your return on your investment.
Right.
So
yours is going to be a little different.
$100 on ads, you get a $200.
Right. Yeah. $100 on ads, you get about $250 worth of revenue, and then I've got to sort of make the art and ship the art and deal with returns and all that stuff. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, we did have a site called Poster Hero, and it was really geared towards sort of the college market, and it was pop culture and entertainment. And at that point, the average order value was around $35, so it was your 5K AOV, right? And we market significantly in paid channels. We were spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $20 to $25 to acquire a customer, and it was really challenging. The challenging part of that site was it's pop culture, so it's very timely content. You're buying lots of stuff. It goes in really fast. It goes out really fast until it doesn't. And so some of the challenges that we had on the Poster Hero site was you'd have Justin Bieber, and you'd get hundreds of Justin Bieber posters in, and then he starts adding a tattoo here or there. Or Miley Cyrus, goes from Hannah Montana to Miley Cyrus, and people stop wanting to buy her. Or Tim Tebow goes from the Broncos to Mets. And Duck Dynasty's hot, and then it's not. So all of a sudden you've got 50 posters here and 100 posters there, and a $25 AOV. And so we decided probably not the market that we can sort of focus on. So AOV is definitely a challenge. So how do you impact low AOVs? A lot of you are probably doing some of these things, and so I'll just sort of highlight them. Obviously, coupons, great way to help with increasing your AOVs. If you look at the industry report, pages 32 to 34, you'll be able to find a lot of the insights on this in more detail. But we found on the platform in general, utilizing coupons gives you about a 300% ROI on your cost per acquisition. So if you're giving them $5, you're going to get a 300 return on that $5 coupon. So coupons is a place where we're seeing on the platform a 3-to-1 ROI. So in my case, if I spent $1, I'd get $3. That's good, right? I live for $250 and up, so 300 is a good one. Multi-race bundles, it's a great place for you to increase your AOV, but it's also a great way for you to bring your cash flow in earlier. I don't know if you guys struggle with cash flow. I struggle with cash flow, lots and lots. So we're spending a couple $1 million with Google and Bing and buying product and bringing all that stuff in. You got to bring it in ahead of time, and so cash flow is always an issue for me. Multi-race bundles is a way for you to bring that cash flow in earlier and then have it staggered for your races further down, but also increase your AOV. So if I bring somebody in and I spend $2, let's say, to bring them to the site, and I can get them to sign up for not just the $30, but maybe the $60 or the $90, now my cost per acquisition just went down, right? Because now instead of me getting $30 and spending $2 or $5 or whatever the number is, I can get $60 or $90. So multi-race bundles is a great way to increase your cash flow, get that money in faster, and increase your AOV. So The next thing I want to talk about is referral discounts. So definitely know a lot of people are using these on the platform, but it's basically the idea of getting somebody to refer 3 friends, 5 friends, 10 friends, and then at different levels giving them something back. Could be an incentive, it could be a discount. Pages 34 to 36 in the industry report talk a little bit about this, but the ROI that we're seeing on referrals on the platform is like 1,000 plus ROI. It's off the charts. If you're not using referrals, that's one thing I would say, probably look into it. That type of ROI is enormous, and it's not hard to do. You can enable flexible participant management options to reduce the workload so that it sort of just works, in the background. You set it up once and then it's sort of running. That type of ROI is something that you really need to be looking at for your races and to increase your AOVs. Basically, if you think about it, if I can get one person to bring me 3 or 5 more people, I've just lowered my cost per acquisition. So it's a great way to bring in more revenue at a lower cost. Swag rewards, similar to referral discounts, giving people additional incentives to do either refer people or do additional things on your platform, whether that's sign up for multiple races or sign up earlier, giving them some type of additional perk so that they do that. And then team rewards and incentives. The idea of creating these teams where, hey, instead of running by yourself, run with a team of 5 or 10. Bob and I were talking about the team rewards and the Scott Coffee Run, and he had just the top team would get a 10 by 10 tent and like a little fruit tray or something like that. And I think the numbers were like 100 people plus in the team that won, because there ended up being this sort of viral sort of team competitiveness. So that's a great way to sort of just create some fun competition and sort of increase the activity and the interaction in it. The CPA when teams were used was about $1, and the increase when it was incentivized. So like if you said, hey, sign up with the team, the top team gets an extra hoodie or something like that, there was about a 19% increase when there was some incentivization to use teams versus not. So if you're going to use teams, try and figure out some fun way to sort of incentivize that to get increased participation. Something to think about.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So now that we know we need to do all of those things, is there going to be some place in the next couple of days that shows us how to do all of those things?
Yeah, so there's a couple presentations tomorrow, and you can also go over to the demo room.
Okay.
And there's like a table called viral marketing, and there's another table of email marketing and stuff like that. And you can sit down for some one-on-one.
Great, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and everything that I'm going over here, if you take anything that I have in the slides and you type in the search bar, coupons, multi-race bundles, referral, it'll drop you right to the topic. The platform is pretty easy that way. I use the search for everything, to put this together. It's a new platform for me. There's a lot of stuff in it. So I recommend just going to search, typing that in the search bar, it'll drop you right in. A lot of this stuff lives under marketing or promotion, and sometimes you're like, where would this be? If you just search for it, you find it really quickly. So traffic source by race. I tried to think of like the best way to sort of go through this and give you guys some, just things to think about, insights on this. So I looked at this in sort of 3 different ways. I took what I'm calling top races. So this is like the top, 10 to 15 races on the platform. And the average race participants in these top races was about 19,000 participants. And the average annual traffic unique to the sites was about 75,000. But the range was anywhere from 14,000 participants to over 30,000 participants. And then the average uniques was anywhere from 40 to 115,000 uniques over the course of the year. So just to give you sort of a sense of like the size of the race. What I found was, if you look here, direct to the RunSignup site was about a quarter of the traffic. The race sites here actually are about a third of the traffic. So for those people who were in Bob's earlier presentation, where he told you to sort of abandon your race website, if you've got a big brand, whether it be a nonprofit or a branded website that you're driving this kind of traffic to, probably want to keep that up, because that's a lot of traffic for you to get, and it's name recognition, and they're coming to your website. That said, that 36% of your traffic, I can't necessarily tell you. You could be paying for that. It could be coming from organic. It could be coming from referrals. So that sliver could be some portion of this as well. So just be mindful of that. About a quarter of the traffic was coming from Google. just under 10% is coming from Facebook, and then about 13% is coming from other. The other is basically running affiliates, RunSignup. So basically any place where people are affiliates sending to your races. The range here, though, is pretty dramatic. When I looked at the range, and this is the top 15 sites, the low for Google was around 2%, and the high around 54%. So even though I sort of averaged it out here, and you see about a quarter, it was as low as almost none, and as high as much as half. And then Facebook, as low as 2% and as high as 16%, and Bing was like in some cases non-existent and as high as 5%. So that range is pretty dramatic. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but that's something to keep in mind. The next group I looked at was sort of what I'm calling mid races. It's not necessarily mid in the full RunSignup platform. I sort of looked at the top 1,000, and then I went to sort of the middle of that. So this group is about average race participants of about 3,000, and the average traffic is about 17,000 annual. And you'll start to see the numbers start to morph a little bit. Google represents a bigger portion of the traffic that's being driven, over a third. Facebook actually increases a bit to 10%. The race website drops down pretty dramatically. You can see here it's about 9%. And then the direct is actually larger, which is good, 30%. And then all the affiliates and things like that are about 13%. So big shifts between Google, Facebook, and the race website in this next tier down. And then the next one I looked at was what I'm calling small races. Average races this is about 1,000 participants. Annual traffic is around 10,000. And you'll see the shift again. Facebook actually jumped up to about 13%. Direct was 18, Google 37, and the race website was about 17. So depending on the size of the race, there was some pretty dramatic shifts in terms of where the traffic comes from. Just to give you a sense of what happens for me on my two bigger sites, 63% of my traffic is coming from Google, 11% of my traffic is coming from Bing, and I find Bing to be a really good, efficient source of traffic for me.
You pay.
Yeah, this is paid. So I'm showing you paid and organic. And then I have about 8% direct. What I call display is what you would term remarketing. So you come to a site, and it can be any site. I do this on all of our sites, but you've had it happen to you. You come to the site, they cookie you, you leave the site, and then they start showing you stuff that you looked at on the site, and you're like, oh, that's kind of creepy. I just did that, and now they're showing me that in Facebook. That's remarketing, right? So that's them saying, hey, I know that you looked at this. Now I'm going to show you this everywhere that I know that you live. Interestingly enough, Facebook, most people keep Facebook on their phones all the time. So Facebook knows what you're doing, where you are, and typically you have it on your desktop as well. So a lot of times you'll be on your desktop and you'll be browsing something, then you'll jump on your phone and you'll see that transfer over. The reason is because Facebook knows you as a unique user in both spots. So if you're ever like, that's creepy, I was just doing that and then it popped up there, it's not creepy at all. They just know you in both places. And that's remarketing. Very effective, but it's remarketing, right? So you've got to pay to get them first in some way, shape, or form. So organically, free traffic, you still have to work to get that. And then you can remarket them because they've come to your site, then you can remarket them. So that remarketing is a fee after you've gotten them to your site once. So you need a higher ROI on remarketing than you do on any paid advertising or any organic, unless all of your traffic is coming organically, because you're paying to get them there first, and then you're paying to get them back. So just be mindful that if you ever try remarketing, that's where audiences is really important, or can be really important. Fulcrum Gallery is a little bit different. So Fulcrum Gallery is the oldest site that we had. It's been around since about 2004. FrameDart, we actually bought the domain somewhere around 2007 or 8, and then sort of built that up. It's become the larger of the two sites because of the domain, but Fulcrum Gallery actually drives more organic traffic, more direct traffic, more unpaid traffic. Unfortunately, it just doesn't convert. So I can't turn that into like the primary site for us, because the average order value is $100, and because people don't convert the same way they do on FrameDart, FrameDart became the primary site. So what does that mean, and what should you be thinking about traffic? I would say number one, like go and review your traffic on RunSignup. If you go to the search menu and you type in traffic, it'll bring you up the traffic stats. And you can look at them at a 30-day window, a 90-day window. I like to look at it over sort of a longer period of time. So I looked at all the data I had here was looking at it over a year period of time. It's important for you to see sort of where your traffic's coming from. Is it changing from year to year? Look at last year. If you've been on RunSignup for a couple of years, look at last year, look at this year. Are you seeing a higher level of traffic from Google or from Bing or from Facebook? Is it on purpose? Is something dropping out on purpose, or is it increasing on purpose? It's important to start to see that as new platforms come up. You have Instagram, you have Snapchat, things like that. Are people using these things? Are you using these things? And is that part of your marketing, and is it having an impact? So you don't want to spend a lot of time on any one given platform and find out nobody's using it. And you're like spinning your wheels and spinning your wheels. We spent a lot of money on Facebook ads initially, and we just didn't see a conversion on it. It just didn't work for us. And so we sort of dialed it back. We use it for remarketing only now, but we don't use it for any first touch. So just look at it, see if it's working. The other thing is, I've given you 3 sort of data sets of like what other people are seeing. Take a look at yours and compare it to that. Are you seeing 2% traffic from Google where your peers are seeing a quarter of their traffic? Are you seeing 0 from Facebook where people are seeing 8 to 10%? And is there a reason? And if that's on purpose, that's fine. But if it's not, start talking to some of your peers here and see what they're doing a little bit differently to see if there's anything you can add to your marketing there. There was a great blog post over the last week or so on the source code tracking. So all these different traffic sources, you're paying some way, shape, or form, whether you're spending your time or your money to advertise. It's important to track that and to see, is it actually working? Every dollar that we spend on e-comm, we've got to track it to figure out where it's coming from. And I'll tell you that one of the most difficult things, so we use Google Analytics because we don't have like a RunSignup platform that tracks all of our stuff and tells us if we're making money and where we're making money. And we've literally spent like months and months and months and months and months trying to get the Google Analytics data to match up, to show all the transactions correctly, to give us the correct information, to tag it correctly. It's challenging. Google Analytics is actually free, but it's really complicated to get the data to flow in and to be able to understand it. Using the platform and tagging things is a good thing. So, get with somebody in the demo room or talk to one of your account managers and just start setting up things little by little. If you're sending out an email, a promotion email, tag that promotion email so you can figure out, like, if I set up a $5 promo or a 5% off promo or a 10% off promo or something, a swag incentive, do one of them resonate more with my customer than another? So, we send out 200 to 300 emails a year on each brand. And every single one of those, we try different things to figure out like which promotion is going to sort of resonate with which different, customer set. So tagging is the way to be able to help figure that out. So great tool. Mobile devices are disruptive. They have completely changed e-commerce over the last probably 5 to 7 years, I would say. For us, every year, it sort of knocks us in one way, shape, or form. And so I'll just throw up some of the mobile insights that are most recent. So 81% of Americans now own a smartphone. So almost everybody. Mobile phones, most minutes of attention in 2019, surpassing television. 4 in 5 Americans are online shoppers. Half have purchased on their cell phone or their mobile device. 90% of users use multiple devices. So, think mobile device plus desktop plus tablet in some way, shape, or form. So for our sites, we typically see about 3 to 5 touch points before we can get them to purchase at our site. So just think like, I get them in once, I get them back twice, maybe 3 times, maybe 4th or 5th time I finally get them to buy. So if I've got to get them there in those times, I can't pay for all those touches. The more number of touches you have, the more increased cost per acquisition you're going to have. 40% of users use mobile devices prior to purchase. So keep that in mind. They may come in on the phone and they may come back and finish on a tablet or a desktop for a handful of reasons. For me, it's screen face, a little bit easier to browse, but they might want to see it a little bit bigger. They might want to show their spouse or show somebody else, their boss or whatever, before placing that order. So they may start on mobile, they may end on a desktop. Really challenging to figure out where your cost of advertising and your ROI happens when that happens. I would say that probably the biggest challenge in e-commerce is attribution. So the idea that I spend $1 in let's say a mobile ad, and they come in on the mobile ad, they don't transact, they leave, they come back, but they're not signed in on anything. They're not signed in on Facebook or Gmail or something like that. And they come back and they finish the participant entry on a desktop or a tablet. And because Google or Facebook doesn't know who they are, you don't know that you paid here and you got them here. And so now you've got this sort of ROI issue where your ROI on mobile looks really, really bad, and it looks really, really good, on desktop or tablet. The reality is it's not as bad on mobile, and it's not as good on desktop, and you have to figure out how to sort of work that out, and that's called attribution. So that's the big challenge of what mobile does to your e-comm and sort of where you spend money. Mobile versus desktop traffic. I took my 4 e-comm brands and I sort of tracked them over the last 5 years or so. And so you can see here, we were seeing about 20% of our traffic was mobile in 2015. It's up to about 40% in 2019. So it's growing pretty dramatically, as you would expect. This is from the State of the Union blog from Pixel Union, and it shows where they expect e-commerce on mobile to be. So 35% in 2017, about 45%, and that's a guesstimate in 2019, but they expect it to be over 50% of all commerce on phone by 2021. That's a significant amount of commerce, so it's something to be mindful of. So what does it look like for RunSignup? If you remember back to the demographic slide when I was telling you that your demographic skews younger, it means that it's heavier mobile, and the stats are here to prove it, right? So 65% of my traffic is 45 and older. And that's not a dig on us old people, but it's just we're not going to transact as frequently as a young person on the phone. So the desktop traffic for RunSignup, and this was point in time, so September 2015, 47%. This September, 65% of the traffic came from mobile devices. That's enormous. Now, that's traffic. So what does that look like when we move over to transactions? 25% in 2015, up to 41% in 2019. So the mobile transaction growth is about 13% per year over this period of time, but the growth has slowed down because as you start taking over more and more of the transactions, it's harder to have that growth rate be at the level that it was. So the gap in traffic to transactions is closing, but there's still a conversion rate gap, right? Because 65% of your traffic is coming from mobile, but only 40% of your transactions are coming from mobile. So remember when I talked about attribution, that means that you've got sort of a 20-point gap in people that are coming in on phone, but finishing up on either tablet or desktop. So that's a challenge for us as marketers. What are some takeaways on this mobile situation? Expect multiple interactions with your customers on multiple devices, obviously. Know that the mobile SERP is going to be limited, and I'm going to go over that in a little bit. When I say SERP, it's the search engine page that you would see on Google or Bing when you do a search. There's limited visibility on page 1, and there's almost no visibility above the fold for anybody who's trying to be an organic, and I'll show you that in a minute. CPCs are going to be lower, so your cost per click, if you're going to try and test the waters on paid advertising, cost per click is definitely cheaper in mobile. There's more inventory there, and the conversion rates are about half, so you can't afford to pay the same as you would on desktop. So there's a chance to maybe bring some traffic in there at a lower rate, but you've got to be smart about capturing that. So that's where the email pop-up is going to be really important if you're going to try that. The RunSignup platform is mobile responsive. So the great thing is that 65% of people that are coming in, they're getting a good experience right out of the gate. But you want to increase mobile transactions, you got to reduce friction. What I mean by that is if I come to your site and I'm on the phone and I have fat thumbs, right? So I type with one finger. So the problem is I will never transact on a mobile phone if I can do it on a desktop. So what can you do to sort of reduce friction? RunSignup has a feature that allows you to drop out questions in the registration path depending on device or the timing that you are in your registration process. So look at your questions, look at your process. Do you need everything that you're asking them for when they're signing up? Can you limit that? Can you make it a little bit easier so that they'll want to sign up? If you can't, you can't, but just be mindful it's there. And if you can drop out a couple questions, you might get people to sign up a little bit more frequently. I'm going to go through this a little bit faster just so that I give you guys some time for questions. But cost per click, this is Google industry data for home decor. So I live in home decor and like art within that. Over the last 5 years, we've seen about an 85% increase in cost per click across the platform, 75 to 80 in mobile clicks, and about a 15 to 20% increase per year. It's pretty daunting. For Fulcrum and FrameDart specifically, about a 19% increase year over year. You can see I was somewhere around $1 per click, and I'm now somewhere up around $2.25 per click. This is a tough game to live in, really tough game to live in. The cost per acquisition, when that cost per click goes up, right? So back in 2015, when I was down around $1, I was about 45 cents per the cost per acquire customer. I'm somewhere up around $75. So remember that Poster Hero brand that was around $35? Yeah, that doesn't work here. so that one's gone. And even Fulcrum Gallery to a point is really challenging at $75. So it works for FrameDart to a point, but we really have to be efficient every single click, every single transaction. And we really have to grab every opportunity because it's really expensive. So you're saying, Tom, why are you even talking about cost per click? Why even bother? Well, this is why we have to at least be thinking about it. I'm not saying it's right for you, but these are a couple searches I did on running races in Florida. This is on Google and Bing, and this is desktop view, so this is my desktop. You'll see here, what is Google and Bing trying to do for you as a consumer of their product, which is the search engine page. They're trying to give you a really good experience. They're trying to get you to click into something and transact so that people like me will be willing to spend money for you to click on their placements, right? And so what they're always trying to do is change the search engine page, 1, so that they can make money, 2, so they can make money, and 3, so that you can find what you're looking for so that they can make money. So if you look here, if I'm going to search for a race event, I'm going to get a calendar of events. Maybe your event's going to be in there. And all your RunSignup events get streamed into Google and Bing. So we're feeding that information in there. You're going to see the affiliates, right? So remember I told you about 10 to 15% of your traffic came from affiliates. So Running in the USA, Run Guides, they're the top events, right? And so if you have like a turkey trot in Moorestown, yeah, you're probably going to be listed if I type Moorestown turkey trot. But if somebody's generically looking for an event in an area, let's say I'm coming to Florida and I just want to run and I'm looking for a timeline, they're probably going to get this. They're probably not going to get your specific race. So what does it look like on a phone? Because I'm here now and I want to run, and so I'm going to check it out. Again, I'm going to get some race calendar events. I'm going to get an affiliate site. I've got a festival there. I've got a running calendar for an affiliate site. There's no space for a ton of races here above the fold for sure. I think I went to 2 or 3 pages deep before I got to sort of individual races. So the organic work that you're doing is going to work in really targeted searches. So think, I do a nonprofit event for some specific charity in a specific month. If somebody's searching for that, they're going to find you. If you're doing a turkey trot in a specific town or a state might be tough, town, you'll come up. So that's where paid advertising can work. It's still challenging, I'm not going to lie to you. It can be expensive. So what can you do to test the waters and possibly have some success? So your cost per acquisition, CPA, is affected by your cost per click. So if I pay 20 cents per click or 40 cents per click, 20 cents is going to bring down my cost, right? Your conversion rate. So if I bring in 100 people and 1 person signs up, that's a 1% conversion rate, right? If I can get 2 people to sign up, that's a 2% conversion rate, my cost per acquisition goes down. So getting them to come to your site and getting them to sign up quickly will reduce your cost per acquisition. The number of interactions. So if I've got to bring them back 3 times, it's worse than if I bring them back twice. If I've got to bring them back 4 times, right? The more times they have to come back to the site, that's going to increase your cost per acquisition. So be mindful of that. Lower friction where possible. Incentivize them where possible so that they sign up sooner. So the multi-race bundles, getting them to sign up for 3 races, you only pay for them once. Getting them to sign up early, giving them the time to sign up early and get like a $5 discount will be important. CPCs are lower on mobile. So I was looking at a race in Texas, and the CPCs on the generic terms that I would use, I think we're running in like the 45-cent range for blended. Generally, you probably see in the 20-cent per click range if you were looking at mobile. Generally, it's about half. For me, it's generally about half. But you're also going to see about a half a point or 50% cut in conversion rate. So capture their email when they come in. Create the email capture. If you go to one of our sites, there's an email capture on every single page that comes in, unless we already know that you've been to the site. Why do we do that? Because we pay a lot of money to get you to the site, and we need the ability to interact with you. Remember, I said 3 to 5 times that I've got to interact with you before you purchase. Probably two or the 3 are paid. So I bring you in with paid, I remarket to you, and then I email market you. So email marketing, we'll talk about is really important. Geo-target to eliminate waste. So if your event is in one state or one city, geo-target. Don't spend money in a nearby state and bring people in for a 5K that isn't going to impact you, right? Be mindful of that. And then you can use audiences to target your marketing further. Participant heat map is really cool technology within the RunSignup platform. If you go into the search bar and you type in heat map, it'll bring it up and you can run it for your race. It's neat technology just to look at. It shows you your top 1,000 zip codes. Why would you use it for marketing? This is great technology. If you're going to geo-target your paid advertising, now you know exactly where to target it. So this was a race that I pulled up in Virginia, and you can see huge heat map in the Richmond area, but you can also see Norfolk, and you can see Roanoke, and you can see Washington, and you can actually see a little bit up in New York, right? I wouldn't run paid advertising up in New York, but I certainly might run it, in Norfolk, Roanoke, DC, right? Possibly. So this is a great place for you to start and say, where would I target if I was going to geo-target? There you go. And then when you go in and you create your campaigns, Google says, hey, where do you want to geo-target? And you just type in, and it gives you these larger city areas. And then this was one I pulled from Texas. This race was actually in Houston. You can see here, obviously, huge concentration in Houston, and I'm not from Texas, but I would have thought, Austin's probably a place where maybe I could go and add some additional. But you can see here, San Antonio was a place where it generated some heat map. So, as I'm looking at this, I'm saying, where can I grow my race? Maybe Austin's a place where I can go hit some running clubs and do some sort of guerrilla marketing where I'm just, hey, I've got this event in Houston. It's a great event. We got a lot of people coming from San Antonio. You guys should check it out. Maybe you give them some incentives to bring people in, and that there's nobody there right now, right? So this is another place where you can sort of generate some marketing ideas of where else to go. Audiences on Google and Facebook. Audiences are basically just groups of people with specific interests, intents, and demographics. Think runners are an audience, right? So I can target in Facebook people who have liked running. There's a bunch of different audiences. I'll go through them quickly here. Affinity, which is basically, a branding use that you would do if you were a big brand. So, think Google Display Networks, YouTube, real-time content, specific users, and it's an increase of market reach. This is basically if you're like Coke and you want to blow money, go for it. You're not going to see huge ROI here. Custom affinity allows you to get a little bit more detailed on that, but still same type of thing. In-market is basically, for people like me, Google basically looks at everything that you're doing, every interaction, every click that you're taking, and then it goes, hey, it looks like Bob's getting ready to buy some art, Tom. And then I can go, okay, I'm willing to spend X money for in-market Bob and advertise to him when he's there. This is dependent on Google getting all that information on you and then allowing us to sort of grab that information and utilize it. So this is sort of I'm going to go after this new group of customers. Life events is basically somebody's getting married, somebody's having a baby, anniversaries, things like that. Also requires Google, Facebook to sort of grab that information from you and allows us to sort of target that. Remarketing, people who have come to your site, remarketing back to them. And then website visitors. Website visitors is a lot like what we create in RunSignup. So the audiences that we create are either your participants, all participants that have ever come to your events, past participants, current participants. You can basically create different audiences. If you type in audience in the search bar, it allows you to go to that point, and then you can create a custom audience there. So why would you use audiences? I'm going to spend money on CPC. I go out to everybody, right? I get a really bad ROI because everybody's not interested. How do I tighten that up? I geo-target. That's one way to tighten it up. The next level down, I create audiences and say I want to even target it even further. So think all paid advertising is sort of the world. Funnel it down, geo-target, funnel it down further, audiences. If you do all of them and you're not seeing any impact, it's probably too tight and you got to sort of let the reins back. We had done some testing on this with RunSignup, just trying to do some turkey trots, and we weren't seeing any impact because we had targeted it too tight. So if you're not seeing any clicks, if you're not seeing any impressions, you probably targeted it too much. You probably got to let it back. So email marketing, this is a place where we all sort of live and drive lots of interaction. We do about 200 plus promotional emails per brand per year. So I sort of went back and looked at like hundreds of emails and I sort of categorized them. And these are just promotion. These aren't drip campaigns. These aren't trigger campaigns. These are just promotional ones. So I bucketed them into urgency, exclusivity, savings, and standard, and tried to tease out some information that I thought could be useful for you guys. Basically, what I found was in conversion rate and the percent of people clicking on them, saw the highest level of conversion on the urgency. So what's urgency? So for me, it's last day of the sale, right? 24 hours to save, right? So for you, what's urgency? Last day before the price increase, right? So sending out that urgency email, you're probably gonna see the best performance and conversion rate. Clicks were sort of in line with all of them, right? So what does that tell you about email? It tells you that it sort of stinks across the board and you're gonna get the clicks that you're gonna get. So the urgency, we saw the best conversion. Next one was exclusivity, not far from urgency. So what's exclusivity? Email exclusive offers. Hey, just for you. So you could do this in a couple different ways, right? You could go and grab people who have been in your events for X number of years. 2 years or more, 3 years or more. Look at your demographics and go, wow, the number of people that have been in there, and then give them something extra. Maybe it's a special package, exclusive sign up just for you, and you get an extra, incentive, swag gift, discount, something like that. We saw the second highest conversion rate on that. One that was just a savings focused general. We do promotions all the time. There's always a sale running if you guys buy anything online. It did okay, a little bit better than a standard promo, but adding urgency and exclusivity was key. From an open rate standpoint, exclusivity actually fared the best. So we got more people to open when they felt like they were special. Urgency was still significant, but it flip-flopped. And then you can see savings and standard promos, they got about the same open rate. You got to give them something more if you want the open rate. So email marketing, and what can you do to make them more impactful? Trigger campaigns are the most efficient and effective email that we do. Like I didn't even show the numbers because they're like, double or triple, and then the graph looks sort of, wimpy when you do it that way. If you're not using trigger campaigns for, at a minimum, your incompletes and your increases, definitely do that. The incomplete registrations, we found people use them the most, but the price increases have a bigger impact. And it's a common sense thing, right? So there's not going to be as many incomplete registrations as there are going to be in your email list where everybody's going to get that price increase. So if you're not using price increase emails, set them up. One, it's the urgency, and I just showed you urgency matters, and it's going to impact your whole list size. So that's going to be your biggest bang for your buck. Test your headlines, right? If you can add urgency or exclusivity into it, special just for you, email only exclusive, that kind of language worked really well for us. 24 hours left or like last day of worked really well for us. So test those things out. Looking at the industry report, you'll find about a quarter of the signups happened within 3 days of the price increases. The price increases are great. If you're not using them, obviously start using them. And then once you do, set up the triggers and add to that usage. The other thing is early opening for multi-year race participants could be a way to set up an exclusive email. Like I said, special discounts or swag for loyal donors or participants, so people who maybe have donated every year for a certain period of time. And then obviously deadline trigger emails are important. That's all I have for today. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for coming, guys.